All right, good morning, everybody. We have a little bit of data today, but it's mostly after the bell, coming out at 9:45 and 10 a.m. We'll talk about that as it comes out. So taking a look at our trade plan from last night, do we need to update these levels here? Let's see. We need to update the holding above level. Let's bring that down to 41. And then we'll shift our targets down, so 65 and 77. And then holding below 41 back down to 906 and 36. That's fine. Right now we have a micro pullback that is kind of a D shape, kind of a capital B. A little bit of a weird micro pullback. Typically micro pullbacks are very fairly balanced, but today it's kind of slightly bearish. So a bit of a micro pullback, continuing the one of yesterday, basically the same value range, just slightly bearish bias. As you can see, we're holding below that 41 level. If we hold below that value low, we're going to look to extend that lower tail, which lines up with that value retrace going into Wednesday. Okay, basically the same thing here. It's slightly bearish, so we do have to lower these upper levels, basically just by one level. And also showing the same thing, micro pullback, but slightly bearish with that bottom heavy profile and no lower tail. If you start getting bought up right into the open, then you're just looking to retrace back into that micro pullback value from yesterday. Nothing too fancy today. Possibly balancing out until that data comes out. That data is coming out in about 15 minutes, and then I think there's some at 10 o'clock as well. A lot of bullish delta into the open here. Keep an eye on that VWAP. VWAP coming up very quickly at 40 and 624. Failing that VWAP to the tick so far. You're above it on NASDAQ, so possibly a trap unless they start buying it up very quickly. Keep an eye on that. We have just been getting perfect bear flag into VWAP trades recently, which is why we were talking about them on that that last recap video. VWAP just acting like a wall when you're hitting it from the downside when you're coming back from that kind of bear flag. Not really in like a bull flag sense. Yesterday we had a couple of bull flag attempts coming back from the high, and I don't remember exactly, but I think the first one bounced a little bit, and the second one was kind of weak. But the bear flags have been very high strike rate. Even the ones that are like bad variations, like this one right here, where you have delta exploding into that VWAP. You can see if you zoom in on the value, it starts falling off just before VWAP, and then it hits it and just absolutely collapses and doesn't find any buy value above that VWAP. It's exactly what you want to see when you're trying to sell VWAP. Good morning, everyone. Tachi, Larry, Future. Good morning, Scott, Jose, Scott D, AT, Banana. Let me pen the trade plan for you guys. There you go. Good morning, Mr. B, XP, Igor, Roman, Nitro. Keep an eye on the prior low. Your prior low target is already being hit. This is kind of the conservative target here. Nitro, Ryan, Lubmir, Ronaldo, Morris, Titus. Good morning, Peter. Good morning, Music, Albazi. Tamer, Carey, Fernando, Lucio, Marcel. Good morning, Nike. Good morning, Blank. Julio, Trevor, Greg, Sam, Charlie. Good morning, Ryder. Good morning, Boat, Roger, JC. Floor, Adam, Vanquish. Good morning, Willie, Suzanne, and Brian. Good morning, Jade and Fable. Happy Friday, everybody. Appreciate you guys all being here. Good morning, everybody who's just kind of lurking and hanging out. Let's try to close the week strong here, not give away all of our profits for the week. Keep an eye on this data coming out in about 10 minutes. Good morning, Adriana, Tom, Timothy, DMG, eBay, Brian, Fruit. So our conservative target, the upper portion of that prior low, is being hit on both ES and NASDAQ, but you're kind of bouncing off that conservative target, which is there because if you hit the conservative level and you start bouncing, that is typically where the higher low is going to form. And that's kind of what you're doing here. You're trying to form that higher low. If you make it to the aggressive target, there would not be a higher low, right? It would be an equal low, or possibly a lower low. But if you bounce a little bit early, off the top of that range, which it's doing here, then obviously we could say that's a higher low. So that is why that target is there. Protect yourself from those possible higher lows. Okay, now the aggressive target is being hit, so both your major targets have been hit, the conservative and the aggressive. At this point, you only have like a runner if you want to let it run and see if it can continue into lower lows. And this is like picture perfect, exactly what we talked about in that recap that I put out on, I think it was Wednesday. If you missed that, be sure to check it out. Morning, Darius. Morning, Rocket. The big tape is asleep. Yeah, they're waiting on the data, most likely. The data coming out in 5 minutes and at 10 o'clock as well. Yeah, VWAP is basically always like that. It's basically the strongest indicator in trading. It's probably the most used indicator across the board. It just doesn't matter what strategy you're using. It doesn't matter if you're like an Elliott wave trader, a price action, order flow, volume profile. Like every single type of trader uses VWAP, so. And it's the same level. It should be the same level, no matter what time frame you're looking at. So the 5-minute guys, the 1-minute guys, the 30-minute guys, they all see the same VWAP. The problem with other indicators is like they're very specific to that strategy or that time frame or something like that. But VWAP is just kind of universal. And just what it is, like what VWAP stands for is basically just pure supply and demand. Okay, so at this point, your runner would be getting stopped out, obviously. So your conservative target was good. Your aggressive target was good. You're not getting a runner because you have an equal low here. And the equal low is obviously bouncing you back into VWAP. We'll see if this delta continues after this 9:45 data. The data coming out is the PMI data. And then we have revised data at 10 o'clock. Did anybody see the headline on Intel? Why is Intel down so much? I keep seeing headlines saying it's down, but I don't see why it's down. Oh, is it earnings? They had earnings. Never mind, it's earnings. They had earnings yesterday. That checks out. So they had earnings, they're down 13%. Daily trail at 44. Keep an eye on that. Liquidity being pulled for that data. Oil's having a good day, up almost 3%. They had a bad guidance, gotcha. Weather's fine until Sunday. Basically, it's all happening on Sunday. It starts on like Saturday night. I think there's a couple of inches of snow, and then it turns into like a massive storm on Sunday. It's going to be like 2 to 3 feet of snow. And then a lot of ice, unfortunately. The ice is the problem, because the ice like sits on the power lines and messes the power up. Manufacturing PMI at 51.9, exactly as expected. Services PMI 52.5 or 52.9. A little bit more data at 10 o'clock. Morning, Tom. Liquidity still kind of pulled here, not a lot. Not a lot of resting. Silver's closing in on 100. I think it broke 100 already, didn't it? Yeah, it already broke 100, I believe. Or very, very, very close. Probably depending on what data feed you're looking at. But yeah, silver's insane. It's literally outperforming like very high volatile, high volatility crypto and pretty much anything. Silver and gold had a really good year. This happens every so often. Like I said, gold and silver, they do the thing where they range for like 4 or 5 years, and then the breakout is massive. Failing VWAP for the second time. Pretty much the same exact trade here. They're making a new smaller contract on silver. Yeah, they probably have to. The metals traders are probably shocked right now because they're so used to kind of slow, like lower volatility. And recently they've been getting insanely high volatility. What's crazy about silver and gold is they're like immune to the margin increases, which you like never see. Typically when they start ramping up the margin requirements, that scares people out of their positions, or margin calls them and they have to close their positions. But you're not seeing an impact on silver and gold. You had a very short-term impact. It pulled back for like a day or two. And then you kept ripping. So that's how strong it is. It's incredibly strong if you can ignore the brokers changing the requirements like that. Come on, Ram. Yeah, there's kind of a bullish divergence here. It's mostly absorption. The buyers are being absorbed. You just can't really look at divergences the same way you used to in the current market. Most of the divergence we are seeing recently is from the limit side, just absorbing the market. It's not like this standard lower high, higher low divergence. Oh yeah, Sean, they got a lot of things they can do to like try to forcefully cool down the market. Definitely not good. It's like in The Big Short. If it gets so bad, they just don't have to price your contracts correctly, right? they've got many ways they can mess around. Good morning, Faraj. The bid and ask spread is about $35 per ounce. I don't think so. What are you talking about? You talking about like on spot or something? Or do you mean like per tick or something? Literally the exact same trade is playing out 2 times here. If you missed the first one, it gave you the identical trade. Where it hit VWAP, instantly failed, no buy pressure into VWAP. You hit your conservative target, you hit your aggressive target, and there is no runner. You're not leaving a runner here because the low is being protected. Now this one is failing the backtest of VWAP. We'll see if it can actually put in a lower low. The daily VWAP. Yeah, finally UFC week. I'm hoping my power doesn't go out. Well, thankfully this time we don't have to pay for it. It's actually insane that we don't have to pay for these anymore. I mean, you technically do. You got to pay for what, Paramount or whatever it's on? I think it's Paramount. But yeah, kind of crazy. I wonder when their tricks are going to start happening, when it's like, oh, you kind of have to pay if you want to not watch these extra commercials or something, you know what I mean? There's going to be something coming down the road they're going to start trying to charge us for. The deal sounds too good to be true, even though they did pay them like $8 billion, which is a ton of money. Commercial in the middle of the fight? Yeah, exactly. There's going to be like every time they go to their corner, there's going to be commercials unless you pay an extra fee. More data coming out at 10 o'clock. And then after that, the liquidity should come back to normal. What's my setup for heat map? Well, I don't have a heat map, so I'm not, what heat map are you talking about? You talking about like my middle chart? TradingView, I don't have a heat map on TradingView either. I don't use heat maps. Keep an eye on VWAP yet again here. Delta still coming up, which is kind of showing us that we're doing what we were doing. I think it was earlier this week or possibly last week, where you had those limit sellers just constantly pushing you down because you see all the buying coming in. But what does that mean? The buyers have to be buying into limit sells, right? And obviously the limit sells are kind of winning for the most part. It's kind of 50-50, but the sellers are a bit more aggressive. Starting to get pretty strong on NASDAQ, holding above VWAP here. Possibly pushing ES above VWAP as well. We are still in that rotation of yesterday, so watch for that push to 712 if it does continue. We are not inside yesterday's value just yet on ES, so slightly more bearish on ES. We'd have to start holding above around 940, then we can push up into that 65, turning more into a lowercase b now. Yet again, another instant failure of VWAP. This one tried to go above it for a couple seconds. Now, this one is the scariest one because NASDAQ is trying to hold above VWAP here. Notice how the sellers are weak below VWAP this time. They pushed back down to that node at 33. They're not allowing it to rotate, and they're pushing back up. This is what I was talking about with NASDAQ. Trying to hold above VWAP. There's the bounce off VWAP. And here comes that 10 o'clock data. All right, here's that 10 o'clock data. Consumer sentiment 56.4 over 54, better than expectations. Inflation at 4% over 4.2, better than expected as well. Liquidity should start slowly coming back now that the data is over. Okay, starting to push back into yesterday's value. This is the POC node. So holding above 48. Starts rotating back into 65. The value area is pretty thick value-wise yesterday, so you could stall really anywhere. But 65 is that main rotation. You've already finished the rotation on NASDAQ, so it's ahead of ES here. Needs to stay above 712 if it wants to continue. Now remember, we did not fully fill in that gap on ES yesterday, so if it does want to get very bullish, that gap into 77 still needs to be filled in. We mostly filled it in. If you consider the wicks, we did fill it in, but if you guys remember what I talked about, If you fill in with wicks, it's almost always going to go back and fill it in anyway. So the wicks don't really matter. And it's a gap to the upside, so it's eventually going to get filled in anyway. The market goes up, right? The only gaps that stay open are gaps on the downside. Look at that trend on the 1 minute. You're basically one time framing on the 1 minute, protecting every single 1 minute low, which is kind of crazy. The delta trend is winning this battle here. Why is the Dow down? There's probably very specific companies that are just getting hit. I think Intel's pretty heavy in the Dow. Finance is also very heavy. Finance is getting hit pretty hard. All the smaller sectors and like the mid-cap sectors are getting hit. Like the only things that are doing well are the really large companies today. Dow is usually very heavy in like finance, healthcare, defense stocks, stuff like that. Building a node up here at 45. Keep an eye on those 1 minute and 5 minute lows here. Finally starting to lose those 1 minute lows here. Still protecting the upper node at 45. You're kind of just rotating it right now. It's not necessary. I don't need to have all the indexes open all the time. NASDAQ and ES are the strongest correlation. More is not always better. Building up this node here at 45, you are very close to shifting that POC. Still just rotating that node. Okay, watch this back test here. You're starting to lose this upper node. You did shift the POC, but it's not rotating anymore. They're not allowing it to go back to the high side of that node. So watch the back test of the 24 and VWAP, see if those buyers come back in, because they're definitely not here right now. And we'll see the difference here between the bear flag and the VWAP and the bull flag. Can the bull flag actually find buyers here? You had 2 attempts of the bear flag and they both got their targets. Is this going to bounce and get back to that prior high? That would be the target. Now, the conservative target here is probably too close. It's only like 3 points away, so that would be pretty difficult. VWAP holding for now, sell pressure coming to an end once it hit VWAP. Not building up a buyer node, which is a bit of a weakness for them, for the buyers. Watch out for a lower high that would kill the bounce off the VWAP. Here's that lower high rejecting that upper node. You hit that upper node or just barely below it at 44. Back down to VWAP here. We'll see if it can actually hold on to VWAP. It's kind of wicking it right now, so the buyers are trying to protect it. Mostly on the limit side. Scrum, are you in the Discord? Did you download the newest one? Is the newest one not compatible? Is that what you're saying? Which one are you talking about? You can see the volume here is very low, mostly bearish delta because the limit buyers are trying to hold it up here. Still protecting the ADMA and that upper node bearishly. Still protecting VWAP here. Let's see if they can actually hold above this node. You could also say the sellers are being absorbed on VWAP now. You definitely do not like to see that lower high on that first VWAP bounce, so that showed a little bit of weakness. You're also trying to put in a lower high here as well. This one's a bit stronger, though, on the buy side. Volume is pretty low today. Only 117 on the opening candle, even with news. Okay, that was a bit of a sloppy one, but that did hit your prior high there. So you can see the difference in the bear flag to the bull flag. The bear flag was a lot easier. This one is getting pretty damn aggressive, though. Keep an eye on that value retrace of yesterday. That goes back into 65. NASDAQ already done. I actually need to extend our targets on NASDAQ because they're already hit. The next target would be the 945 one. There's not really anything in between. Let's see if we can get out of this kind of micro pullback chop that we're stuck in. So earlier you were only seeing limit buying because you had all those bearish delta traders on the low there, the market traders, and they were getting stuck by the limit buyers. Now you're definitely seeing those aggressive buyers come in. VWAP, VWAP, VWAP. Basically just been VWAP trades the last couple of weeks. They've been very obvious. Keep an eye on the 30-minute close. You could have single prints going down to 43. You have a couple of single prints going back to 43, but they are protected by that POC node. Trying to fill in these single prints. The last one is under the POC, which is a little hard to get to. starting to get more into that like vertical distribution vibe where it's getting a lot slower, protecting the 24 EMA, not really aggressive, not seeing a big spike on the highs, but it is uptrending, right? You're kind of in that diagonal uptrend. Bit more aggressive on NASDAQ, staying above that 80 EMA. Even open that single print going down to 43. It's below the POC, so it's a bit hard to fill in. Still looking to retrace. Sorry, here we go. Trying to pull it up. Still looking to retrace yesterday's value high at 65. We're about halfway there. So if they continue to break out here before this next 30-minute close, you might have some more single prints coming in. We'll see how fast it is. Doing a good job protecting that upper node at 50 so far, still in that kind of vertical distribution. Delta's starting to roll over a little bit on the high up here. Still protecting all the 5-minute lows and the EMAs, so no trend break. Looks like you might have a couple of single prints going down to like, what, 53, 54. Coming up on that full retrace of yesterday. Needs about 5 more points, I believe. Basically still just in this micro pullback, just extending yesterday's value. Okay, you do have a couple of single prints going down to 55 here. You still have that one at 43 as well. One more push up will finish the overnight high retrace and the retrace of yesterday. It's a very stable trend. Bit more aggressive on NASDAQ. This all started from that bounce off VWAP, which you did not get, by the way, on NQ. You did get it way early on that first push. You didn't get the big pullback like ES did. Hey, Sam, have a good weekend if you're still here. Hey Chuck, yeah, you can just send me an email. It's admin@oasistrading.io. Basically the website that's on the bottom of the screen, just add admin to it. Admin@oasistrading.io. Alright guys, pretty boring day today. Not really a whole lot to talk about. It's just kind of one move the entire day. You had a little couple of VWAP tests right out of the gate. If you guys missed that. Bear flagging the VWAP, hit your target. Bear flagging the VWAP, hit your target. No runners. They had a equal low. If there's an equal low, the trade's basically over. And then on the buy side, same thing. Bull flag, hit your target. This one does have a runner, so this one's just kind of hanging out. Just running along the 24 EMA, 5-minute lows. And just continuing. Here is the 65 level. It's almost to the tick, missed it a little bit. That is the value high of yesterday. So finishing that retrace. No pullbacks, yeah, not really. You had a couple. You had a pullback right here to the 24. Pullback right here to the 24, and that was pretty much it. Hey, Mr. B, have a good weekend, man. We'll see you back on Monday, as long as I have power. Well, you would have already taken profit for pretty much your entire trade anyway, so once it gets to the equal lows, you've already hit your conservative target, you've already hit your aggressive target, so at that point, you would probably have like less than a third of the trade left, even if you had any left. And that was if you wanted to leave a runner. And then once it starts putting in that equal low, the runner's dead already, so. Turning into a 30-minute sweep here, another pullback to the 24 EMA. That's the third pullback so far. First major pullback on NASDAQ to the 24 for like the last hour or so. Yeah, the boring days are not bad. It's definitely not, it's not boring in the sense that you can't trade. There's some great trades today. It's just boring in the sense that there's not a whole lot of craziness going on that I need to commentate on. This is kind of how the stream is in the afternoon most days. Like most days I'm just sitting here not really commentating too much in the afternoon because there's just not really a whole lot happening that needs to be commentated on. Like is there a break in structure? Is there a new signal coming in? Is there a key level being tested? Like those are the things that I like to commentate on, right? If you're just continuing the same trade for the last hour or two, I'm not going to keep reiterating that we're just in the same trade, you know what I mean? Boring is not always a bad thing. Now, there are days that are boring and you're also not getting any trades, or it's just kind of doing absolutely nothing. Those days are terrible. When you have like a 5-point rotation, you can't really do anything. Yeah, if you don't take a lot of partials, you should have at least like 2 most of the time. So like two exits for one trade. So like you could use like either the conservative target or the aggressive target, and then you could try to leave the other one for a runner. But as soon as that starts to pull back, you're basically just closing the runner at the same place you would have closed your first target anyway. So it's as if you just closed it one time. You're not going to let it come back and lose all your profit. Looking for that last single print here, possibly pulling back to 55. They're doing their favorite thing where they leave that last single print left open. They have it on the B and the C. A lot of bearish delta coming in here on this upper node. little bit of a rollover here if it stays below the 24, putting in a lower high. You're battling this node so much you have shifted that POC up here. So you had a sweep on the 30-minute and that lower high right here, confirming that sweep. Possibly just looking for the single print fill, but it could be looking for VWAP, which would also line up with filling in that second single print. Yeah, this is in the 4th video, the volume profile video on the Apex series. They're protecting this node a little too much here for that rollover. 5-minute lows still being protected as well. You can see the delta shift. These candles are colored based on delta. They finally found where that seller delta is coming in. Much better liquidity now that we got all that data out of the way. I have no idea what you're asking, Jade. Microsoft, yeah, pretty much all the big names were green earlier. We can double check. Yeah, all the big names are doing well. Nvidia, Microsoft, Facebook, Micron, AMD, Apple's flat, Google's flat, Facebook's doing good, Amazon's doing good. The small caps, or the smaller sectors, and the mid sectors are not doing great. Finance having a really bad day. Health tech not doing too good. It's literally just the big names. Except for Intel. Intel had bad earnings. Keep an eye on that single print here. Delta's still ramping up to the sell side. This POC node is very bearish bias based on Delta. Delta is flooding in here to the downside. Large tape is mostly red, small tape red. Just kind of getting absorbed for now. They need to break through this volume shelf at around 55. Possibly retesting VWAP if they can lose it. This is where all those 5-minute lows are being protected, so you need to stay below that shelf. Hi from Italy, what's going on, man? Glad you enjoy the streams. Still holding that volume shelf, this POC node, just allowing it to rotate back and forth, creating a micro pullback candle on this 30-minute. So you have an impulse candle, then you have that top doji. So if it wanted to be bearish, you need to stay below that volume shelf, which very clearly it's just not doing. All this bearish delta that started around, what, 20 minutes ago? being absorbed. NASDAQ has been leading a little bit today, so watch for that sell-off on NASDAQ. If that happens, it might pull ES down. It would make sense for the sellers to win this battle up here because you did finish that retrace. So it wants to rotate back down to 42. This is a failed breakout on NASDAQ. If they can't hold back above like 750, if this pullback can stay above 750, it doesn't look too bad. This is what we talked about yesterday. I don't remember if it was on stream or in Discord, but we were talking about how micro pullbacks are normally neutral, but because we did not test this value at all, the value of Wednesday, you have a slight bullish bias there, obviously. Not a single point of retest. Okay, here's that push down on NASDAQ, pushing you down on ES as well. So like I said, NASDAQ is a little bit leading. You can see it started selling off just before ES did. Build in that upper single print. You still have that lower single going down to 42, which lines up perfectly with a VWAP retest. This is still a rollover top. It's just a very slow one. We had a lower high right there. I might make a recap of today on Tuesday, if I remember. What's today, the 23rd? Yeah, 23rd. Because today was pretty clean. It's just very slow. But the patterns are there. All right, guys, we're going to start closing up the stream. We are pretty close to 100 likes. I think we'll be able to get there. If you guys can push that above 100, we'll do an Apex account giveaway. I will be streaming the rest of the day in Discord. If you guys are not in Discord, enjoy your weekend. If you guys are on the East Coast, stay safe. It's going to be a pretty big winter storm. I will most likely be streaming on Monday as long as my power's not out. So I'll see you guys back on Monday, same time as always. If you guys are hanging out for the giveaway, give me 1 second. I will get that started. If you guys are heading out, hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe if you guys enjoy the content. If you guys want to get entered in our monthly raffle, you can sign up to Apex using the code BREW. If you do use that code, just hang on to any of those receipts. I'll start getting those from you guys on Monday. And as long as you send them by from like Monday to Friday of next week, you'll get entered into our raffle. And those raffles will be for cash prizes. We typically do them in like $250 per prize. That'll be on PayPal. And then Discord access, 1 month or 3 month. But I'll talk about that more on Monday when we show the details. All right, let me go ahead and get that giveaway going here. So same as always, pick a random number between 1 and 50. Only pick one number. If you tie, we'll do a tiebreaker. It's going to give you a promo code that you can use on any size account for Apex. Make sure to have your email ready. If you do win, I will need to verify your email before I send the code. Keep an eye on VWAP. That is the obvious target for a rollover top. I'll give you guys another minute or so. Keep an eye on VWAP. VWAP coming up. 5-minute highs being protected. You have a couple of really strong nodes here that could stall you out. Strong node at 50, strong node at 45. If you missed the rollover earlier, you had the sweep, and then like we always say with a rollover top, it's just confirming the sweep. So this was a sweep on the 30-minute, and then lower high, lower high. Then you just slowly started losing that 24. You can see the delta started coming down pretty rapidly, which for about 15 minutes or so, it was being absorbed. Delta has been winning today. Like whatever direction the Delta's trending in, that's where it's pushing price. Earlier in the morning, we saw that with the uptrend. It was pushing up very aggressively, and then finally it started exploding. Here comes VWAP. Keep an eye on that for your target. You could also target like somewhere around here if you don't think it's going to get to VWAP, because you do have a couple of strong nodes here that are kind of stalling you out. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and roll. Good luck. If we have any ties, I will do a tiebreaker. 31. Do we have any 31s? See a couple of 21s. If I miss your number, just let me know you won, and then I'll go back and check your chat history. I do not think we have a 31. I do not see one. I'll give you guys about 10 seconds or so. If you did put 31 and I missed it, let me know. I do not see one. All right, last chance. Did I miss you? Okay, I'm going to roll again. New one is 23. Looks like we're having some bad luck today. A lot of 22s. Oh, there's a 23. Okay. Adrian, are you still here, Adrian? Awesome. I see you, Adrian. Did I miss anybody else? I see you, JC, but you typed it after I rolled it. At least on my side, unfortunately. You might have a stream delay. Yeah, I see the first comment, guys, but on my end, he typed it after I rolled it. unfortunately. All right, I think it's just you, Adrian. Let me see here. Yeah, sorry, JC. I always make I'll start saying it out loud so you guys know that I'm doing it. But I always make a mental note of who the last one is in chat that I'm going to look at. And the last one in chat was the one right before you. 169. That was the one that was the bottom for me. But I'll start saying that out loud so you guys know that I'm not trying to screw you over. But yeah, always make sure, guys, when we start these giveaways, press that live button or do whatever you can to be up to date with the stream. There's a live button. You can speed it up. You can refresh it. Whatever you got to do. By the way, that node is doing exactly what we were talking about, where it's stalling it right before VWAP, unfortunately. So that node at 50 is bouncing you here. So still watch for a lower high. We'll see if it puts in a lower high basically right here. It has to put in a lower high right here if it wants to go back down to VWAP. This buy pressure is very weak, I will say. The delta is not as strong as it looks. Not in Discord. I need it in my email just to keep track of everything. So I'll send you my my email here. Give me 1 second. I know it's easier for you guys that are in Discord, but it just helps me keep track of everything when I have it all in my email. Here's my email. Go ahead and send me a message there. If you guys are heading out, enjoy your weekend. I'll see you guys back on Monday. If you guys don't see me on Monday, it's probably because of the snowstorm affecting my internet or my power. But I will most likely be back on Monday. If not, it should be cleaned up by Tuesday. Gotcha, Chuck. I'll take a look at it after the stream. Let me see if I got your email, Adrian. I got you, Adrian. Let me type in a random number for you. And just type that in chat and you're good to go. If the sellers can protect this POC node here and still put in a lower high, they can still continue back to VWAP. Now, obviously, this is a very large bounce, so that rollover top trade is most likely over for most people. It would have to be like a secondary trade for the retest of the POC, because that's about a 10 to 12 point bounce. Just depends on how you trail. I got you, Adrian. All right, I'm going to send you a code, and then you just basically sign up for Apex like you normally would, and it will give you a promo code for a 30-day free account. And then after that, just make sure to go back to the other code, or it's going to start charging you full price. Or I think it's like full or half price. But all right, guys, I'll see you in Discord. If you guys are not in Discord, enjoy your weekend. I will see you most likely on Monday. Peace, everybody.